everybody. Thank you so much for participating. Just a few housekeeping notes. If you could keep your microphone on mute if you're not talking. Of course, if you have a comment that you'd like to put in, you can raise your hand. You can just jump in and unmute yourself, or you can send your comments in the chat. And as Anne said, this presentation will be recorded just for future reference and to share with anybody who may have missed. Okay, so just a quick agenda for the day. We're gonna quickly go over some background information about the project and go through some introductions. We'll do an overview of the Walkable Community Workshop that we held back in July. And then we'll talk about the different design options that we have for the corridor. And then we'll quickly go over some next steps. So just a quick recap that this project is funded by the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority. It's in partnership with Sustainable Jersey and Voorhees Transportation Center. So I don't think I actually let everyone know my name. My name is Lisa Cintron with the Voorhees Transportation Center. And we are in our second year of this Complete Streets Technical Assistance. We're currently helping 8 municipalities, including Hackensack. Okay, so some quick introductions. I've just introduced myself, but I think, do we have Peter or Keith here? Oh, Keith, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, thanks, Lisa. My name is Keith Amos, Principal Planner with the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority. We're the funding agency for this study. We are the Metropolitan Planning Organization federally authorized for the region of North Jersey. And that means that we oversee the funding allocation for federal funds towards regional transportation improvement projects. And we also have a few programs through which we do our own studies, planning studies, and in this case, it's the Complete Streets Technical Assistance Program. As Lisa says, competitive program in the second round, and we selected Hackensack among a couple dozen bidders, and we had the selection of Hackensack was based on the needs that were demonstrated through the application, as well as the strength of having other projects and other planning efforts in place. So this is really to help support the municipality at a local level with some regional planning principles through Complete Streets ethos. So happy to hear from you again. This is the second round where we heard your input in a couple months ago in a virtual walkthrough, and now we've put together some design concepts for safety improvements, and we're looking forward to hearing what you think about those. So welcome, everyone.
Excellent. And then we also have Anne, do you want to introduce yourself from Sustainable Jersey?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Anne Heasley here from Sustainable Jersey, helping to facilitate this project. Glad you are all able to join us.
Excellent. And then we have my colleague from Voorhees Transportation Center, James. Do you want to say a quick word?
Hi, everybody. It's James Sinclair. I work with Lisa at BTC. I'll be monitoring the chat. So if you don't want to speak up, but you do want to talk through the chat, please feel free to use it. Thanks.
Excellent. And so if everyone wants to just quickly put in their name and the organization that they're affiliated with, as well as their connection to Hackensack into the chat real quick. This way we just have a quick way to go through the introductions. I'll just give everybody a sec.
We also have Ashna on the phone from BTC.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Ashna. While people are typing, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Hi, this is Ashna Jain, also with the Voorhees Transportation Center. I work with James and Lisa, and today I'll be just listening.
Excellent. And it looks like we have some people from the county. Peter Courtright, do you want to give a quick introduction? Peter, if you're muted if you are trying to talk.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, it's Peter Courtright with Bergen County Planning and Engineering, and if there's any questions related to county roads, we'll be here to answer those. Thanks.
Excellent. And if there's anyone from the from Hackensack who'd like to quickly introduce yourself, just please, you can unmute yourself and hop right on in.
Gary Tuzano, a member of the Hackensack Planning Board, and I'm chair of the Hackensack Environmental Commission. Hello, everybody.
Excellent. Thanks for being here.
Leo Bataglia, Hackensack City Council. Thank you for all the help that you guys are providing.
Of course. Okay. All right. Now, just a quick reminder. Sorry, clicking through here. Just a quick reminder, we conducted the virtual walk audit back in July. We walked the study corridor via Google Maps. The corridor is here on the left. And we collected feedback both through the conversation that we had during that presentation, as well as through the walk audit forms that we had sent back to us. And I think we had a total of about 5 walk audit forms sent back to us. So thank you to those who sent those back. Okay, let's talk about some of the designs that we've put together from your feedback. So the first piece of the section is right here at the corner of Essex Street between, Prospect Avenue at the corner between Essex Street and Thompson Street. So some of the ideas that we had for this corridor included providing much more highly visible crosswalks. If we start at the top section, you can see the crosswalk by Thompson Street. We've suggested that those flashing beacons be moved directly in front of the crosswalk, so that by the time they're flashing, you're right in front of the crosswalk. Sorry about that. And we've suggested installing a median, since you're not allowed to make left-hand turns on this roadway anyway. So the median would serve 2 purposes. Of course, it would, a number of purposes actually. So of course, it would keep drivers from making illegal left-hand turns, but it would also help at the crosswalk. So it would provide a little bit of a pedestrian island as you're crossing. It would be about 6 feet, at least 6 feet wide. You would have this area through that long crosswalk where you're protected. So do we have any feedback on the designs for this section? Please feel free to just speak up or pop something into the chat. We also have bike lanes added on both sides. These are of course optional. All of the designs are optional. That's why we're talking about it here too. Does anyone have any feedback on maybe, one good thing about the median is it would be a great opportunity to maybe include some plantings to beautify the street a little bit, to slow traffic. It's a pretty wide street, so there's a lot of room to work with.
So Lisa, real quickly, is the median, that's what's shown in red, right?
Yes, exactly. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah. Sorry, just reading through this chat here. It looks like there's some support for the median, maybe not the bike lane. There was someone on the call last time who talked about biking through the corridor and how it was tough, especially in this area, and they wanted to make sure that any of the improvements didn't eliminate the possibility.
Still here.
Oh yes. Oh, there you go.
All in favor of bike lanes, of course.
Excellent.
And I think Carl had a question about a road diet in the chat also.
Oh, about what is a road diet? Oh, so a road diet. So we're taking this roadway that is 54 feet wide and just repurposing the space, maybe so that the width of each lane isn't quite so narrow, quite so wide. I can't remember. I think it might have been about 14-foot lanes for each travel lane, and that's really wide. I mean, on the turnpike, I think there may be 11 feet wide, possibly. So it's a bit wider than it needs to be. So a road diet just sort of cuts it down and puts in a number of other options. Oh, we
That
have
sounds
just a,
that sounds excellent. If yeah, narrower lanes for the cars. It doesn't need to be car centric, and then we can put other stuff like bike lanes and stuff like that. That sounds very, very good. That
yeah.
if the lanes don't need to be that wide, keeps the cars driving slower, I guess. And yeah, does anybody have a reason why the lanes would be that wide to begin with?
My
So
opinion,
cars can go faster.
my opinion, this is Leo. That particular section, if we're gonna put that median in the middle of the like island that you wanna do, for big cars, like sometimes trucks or whatever, it will be difficult to maneuver around the area. I love bicycle lane. I love bicycles to ride myself, but I would say that we don't have enough room there to create bicycle lane, and the top of that, to put the island in the middle. You can consult with the traffic people of the city, but I don't think that that's gonna fly.
Yeah, I think right. So here we've put every option into this design.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily have to go with every piece of it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree.
But it can definitely be designed, I think, with the median, but to still accommodate truck traffic as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got the ambulance, they not really small cars, you know, it's not like for leader car. This is a road that's been used sometimes by the fire department, by the ambulance.
Right, and 11 feet wide should be wide enough for both the ambulance and the fire trucks.
I have some questions.
I just wanted to mention in regards to the median, it can definitely be designed in a way that emergency vehicles could actually drive over it in case, you know, there's congestion and they need to get around vehicles. It can certainly be designed to accommodate that kind of traffic.
Yes.
Right, and then for regular vehicles, what it also does by extending that median out through the crosswalk, it sharpens the turning angle. So motorists are forced to take turns at a lower speed. And as James said, they are shallow enough, or they could be designed to be able to accommodate emergency vehicles to mount that if they need to.
I think, Peter, you had a comment?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So a couple of things, and I'll start backwards. And again, don't take this negatively. I think the introduction of bike lanes has to be done in a holistic and a comprehensive way. So for instance, if you're looking at destination basically from Essex Street to the other point, what is the purpose of these bike lanes? To get to a dangerous intersection? So I would suggest any introduction of bike lanes, especially on county roads, has to be looked at in a comprehensive way. So I don't think these would be meaningful bike lanes whatsoever because it's just taking you to a dangerous area. So the second item is this medium ambulance as well as fire trucks as well as DPW. And I hear this through 70 towns on clearing snow and debris, street sweepers. How is that going to be dealt with? This is the biggest complaint I hear with the introduction of a medium. And I understand you're trying to prevent from left turns, but there's probably other ways to do that, which without installing a more structural manner. So I'm just throwing that out to the group. This is things, you know, at the county, we hear this at 70 towns. When they introduce a barrier, it feels good, but there are consequences to this. And if someone asked me about why there are 11-foot or 12-foot lanes, there is truck traffic. So again, tractor trailer, the radius, they actually have to turn. So now you're asking a truck trailer to actually go over the median and go into sidewalk areas. So we have to look at this in a more comprehensive way. It's now looking at every aspect. You know that this is a truck area as well as ambulance and so on. So I want to just throw that out so everyone understood that. Those are my comments.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. And the bike lanes would have to be part of a broader network.
Correct.
And the median, there's also an option for the median to simply be painted so that it could be fully driven over.
Fantastic. And that would probably be a way that that would settle a lot of things. The painted median we do have in other parts of Hackensack, and we have it in Teaneck and so on. I think anything structural would be a more dangerous element, and that would be my recommendation.
Absolutely. Okay, making notes.
I just want to say, as a complete streets advocate, that the entire concept of having a complete streets plan is to enable all users to safely use the road, not just trucks and cars. So, I mean, I think some of these concepts that are being put in here are not to deter the vehicles, but to safely allow pedestrians and bicyclists to also use the space.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lisa. And I think it's also important to note that we're not suggesting that the travel lanes be less than 11 feet. We're keeping them, we're taking them down to 11 feet. So they started significantly wider. Right. So we would never make it so that we would never suggest that it be narrower than it could be, than could support, especially the incoming emergency vehicles.
Lisa, we have a question in the chat from Susan about the placement of the flashing signs. If you can explain the reason that comment was made.
Oh, yes. So the flashing signs right now are placed about, I think they're about 75 feet away from the crosswalk. Actually, my next picture zooms in on that a little bit if we want to jump forward. Yes. So you can see they're placed now directly at the crosswalk, which I think is how FHWA, the Federal Highway Guidelines, suggests that it should be at the crosswalk. I guess this serves a number of purposes. Maybe 75 feet in front of the crosswalk is just a little bit too far to signify to the drivers that this is what they're for. But also, if they're placed right at the crosswalk, they can be push button activated. This way they're only activated when there's actually a pedestrian there and not accidentally activated, which I think was one of the issues.
That's a good idea.
If I may, currently,
Yep.
This is Gary Tizano. Currently, heading north, the first warning amber flashing light, number one, is not positioned properly facing traffic. So you really don't see it until you're almost right on top of it. And I've made that comment to City Hall about all they have to do if you're going to keep them is just reposition them so the vehicles, when they turn or come across Essex Street heading north, get that chance to see them. And coming southbound on the other side isn't too bad, but the one that's most critical is the one I just mentioned. So why it hasn't been adjusted until there's some other type of design, I don't know. It's an easy fix. What you have to do is loosen it and turn it, and it helps everybody out presently until, like I said, another plan comes into effect. As far as the bicycle lane, I don't have a problem with having a 5-foot buffer. I wouldn't encourage, as much as I'm a bicycle rider, as well as Peter, I wouldn't encourage bicycles in that area. It's a danger zone between the traffic coming out of the private Zanzari building, medical complex, and trying to get across Thompson Street or even Essex Street. I wouldn't really publicize that too much. I would use a 5-foot buffer though, just for some type of effect for pedestrians, just to give a little more help for that the vehicles aren't close to the pedestrians walking. That's how I feel about that.
Yes, that makes sense. Use it as like a buffer space, or maybe even a space where the sidewalk could be widened a little bit and include some sort of buffer along the sidewalk.
I have a comment. This street is very important for bus traffic and commuters. I wonder if that was taken into account for these designs. So there not only is bus traffic on it, but buses are stopping, and especially during the morning rush hour, lots of people are getting onto the buses and piling on, the sidewalks and stuff like that. So I'm just wondering, was that considered, and does that make a big difference?
Right, absolutely. And the bus stops are a little bit further north, I believe. And so the design changes a little bit up there. But yes, we absolutely did consider the bus stops.
Lisa, just noting a couple of the comments. Anthony mentioned that there used to be parking on Prospect Avenue years ago, which might explain why it's so wide today.
Right.
And then Nicole mentioned that those flashing lights are maintained by the medical center and have actually been moved a couple times.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yes, definitely.
So Lisa?
Yes.
So I would mention about the positioning of the light. I think in this case that the light system would be totally replaced with a rapid beacon. So that would already solve that. With the rapid beacon light, that would, so the position of light won't make any difference. We would just replace the entire system. And there would be LED lights on both sides. So I think that's the way it would be addressed.
Excellent. Okay, any other comments on this section of the corridor?
Yes, I have one comment. Are you guys going to address the traffic signal issue in that area? The lights, traffic lights?
Oh, the Essex Street traffic light?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think our recommendation for that traffic light is to consider either having a no turn on red, or allowing the traffic light to provide a pedestrian leading time, which basically the pedestrian gets the chance to walk a few seconds before the green light for the cars. This way you don't get those right turning issues as much.
I had sent in a suggestion after the last meeting that even if a traffic light was installed on the entrance exit part of the hospital, that all the lights would be red.
Yes.
So all pedestrians at all locations have an ample opportunity to cross. And once
yes,
again,
absolutely.
And no right turns on green, no left turns, whatever, on red rather. And so everybody gets a chance. All traffic is held till everybody clears an ample amount of time, and announced with a speaker system, like I mentioned in Cedar Lane and Garrison Avenue and Teaneck. It works great over there, and everybody gets a chance safely to cross.
Right, absolutely. And I think one of the conversations we'll have next is about the hospital entrance. Okay, and Lisa Lee agrees with having the pedestrian only signal for pedestrians and cyclists to cross. I can definitely include that. So I didn't include as many of the not design recommendations, but these will all be included in the final report and detailed out as well. Okay, so one thing I wanted to point out is that a lot of these changes can just be done with paint. It doesn't necessarily have to be a full-blown curb installation or a heavily invested in infrastructure change. And also these changes can be tested out. You can try it out with just some cones and chalk or paint, or just give it a try and see what works and might not work for an area. So let's talk about the hospital entrance. So right now there's 3 lanes heading into the hospital, and honestly, you just can't have 3 cars turn at the same time anyway. So we thought maybe if we narrow it down to 1 lane coming in that then widens when they get into the hospital, and narrow the exiting lanes, you've significantly shortened the crosswalk. And you can even have a curb extension that bumps the crosswalk out a little bit, because a lot of the cars stopping to leave from the hospital were stopping on the crosswalk. and blocking pedestrians who are trying to cross. I think the area could also, may also want to be, the municipality may want to do a traffic study to determine if a light is feasible at this location, and there should be a crosswalk over Prospect Ave here as well. And again, all of the widths of these roads can take into account the hospital and the emergency vehicles that are passing through. So do we have any comments on this section of the corridor?
I agree that maybe should be a traffic light right there in the exit of the hospital.
Yeah.
Or in the meantime, not allowed to make a left. Because when you are making a left and then the people that coming north in Prosper Avenue, there's already a few accidents there. One of my soccer players got hit by a lady that never stopped because it's not really in a stop sign. When you're gonna make a left, it's no stop sign. And the right-hand side, you gotta stop. And the other side, for the left, they don't have a stop sign. So the lady just went she just crossed the road. So in the meantime, now maybe we need a stop sign, and the best thing to do there is to have a traffic light. That way we can control that.
Right, I think the stop sign might have recently been upgraded. I
checked it out about a week ago. I think it wasn't there.
Oh, no way. When I went a couple weeks ago, they had an LED.
They got one on the right-hand side. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna check. I'm gonna go there maybe later. And to the right-hand side, always was a stop sign, but going to the left and proper was nothing.
Yeah.
But I can check.
Right. Well, the stop sign on the right should apply to both, since the stop bar goes all the way
Not
across.
really, because what happened is you made it 2 lanes, and sometimes the people don't pay attention
They
to
just
the
don't
stop
see.
sign, the right side only, and then they don't stop here in the left side.
Yeah, well, we can definitely include installation of a stop sign on the left-hand side as well. And we do recommend a traffic study, which we couldn't recommend a light. There would have to be a study conducted in order to determine that a light was necessary. Right.
Especially at night.
Yeah.
At night, really dangerous to make that left turn there.
And
Right.
Lisa, in the chat, Lisa Lee mentioned adding stop as a pavement marking as well as the sign to sort of help.
Oh, yeah. Great
Right, right.
idea.
Yeah.
Okay, what other thoughts do we have on this section?
So I would say something here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, obviously, I was going to mention the stop sign on the pavement. Yes, to move up the stop bar, like you showed on the plans. And the 2 stop signs, that's not prohibited by regulation. So you can have a stop sign on both lanes. And also I don't think they're at regulatory height, so it's almost like the dismissive. It should be prominent where people have to know that there is a full stop here. And you know, they have to wait 3 seconds and make sure that the air is clear on all directions. Also, they could also have reflective painting also, you know. So there are things you can do in all kinds of ways to get the driver's attention and to alert them that there's other activities, movements going on here.
Right. And when I passed through this area, there was actually an LED lit stop sign.
Right,
Okay,
that's
good.
a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea, yes.
Yeah, so it was flashing when cars were stopping
Exactly.
or approaching.
Great.
Another thing I would suggest is exiting vehicles turning left out onto Prospect, to pull that median out to or closer to the crosswalk. That'll help ensure that it's you know, taking a slower, more careful approach and lower speed is the key. So they won't be able to take a wide angle to turn out or in from southbound.
Oh, right. You mean the planting strip that they have there in the median?
Right. But no plantings should be there. You don't want to create visibility issues. Just pull the median out a little bit.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, any other thoughts on this section? This was probably the intersection we spent the most time talking about the first time around. We still have the bicycle lanes extended here as well. I'm not sure. And then the median, there could be a narrow median here if it was, if you wanted to extend it from the first section, but the road narrows here, so there's less space to work with. But you can see, at least in this picture, there were cars parking on the road even when there's no parking.
Correct.
I would say that, you know, to Peter's point earlier, it's a good idea to consider the comprehensive bicycle network. But I know from experience and as a resident in town, I see a lot of people running on Prospect and similarly along Summit. They're both nice avenues that are wide and it's pleasantly aesthetically, and a lot of people do bike and walk along that corridor. So a bike lane would be a nice introduction there, I think, but it needs further study.
Yeah, of course. You don't want the bike lane to nowhere, but it has to start somewhere too.
Could
Correct.
the bike lane start after after the hospital? Because I'm just looking at that bike lane in that intersection. I'm just thinking I wouldn't want to ride my bike there.
Yeah.
No, I don't recommend that.
Right, so further north, the road narrows even a little bit more. And so at that point, there isn't really room for a bike lane. There's only really room for sharrows.
Right.
Especially because,
Right
question
after
is-
Atlantic Street.
yeah,
If you're riding a bike, it isn't a question of where do you want to go. I mean, you have to go there. This is the road that goes where you're going. I have to ride my bike on this road because there are no other roads to get to where I'm going. So you can't just, you know, hand wave that away. The roads are leading you to your destination, whether you're a bicyclist, a car, or pedestrian.
And the
Well,
best
what
place
hap-
to have a bike lane is where it is most dangerous. You know, where it is most dangerous is where cyclists really want a lane that kind of identifies that they're going to be coming. That will, just by painting it like that, it
If I may,
alerts cars, it alerts drivers to know, hey, there are bicyclists going to come here.
if I may, I think you should, if there's going to be a bike lane, I think one lane on the west side of that street, and take the one away near the hospital. Where there's no traffic crossing, it's worth studying it if you don't want to abandon it altogether.
yeah, there is an option. If you're gonna have the lane on one side. Oh, you mean put both lanes on one side so that it's multi-directional? That is,
Well, you can go, let's just say one lane on the other side and see how if it would work or not. You have the bollards there anyway.
yeah.
But not on the
Right.
hospital side. That's a suicide lane there.
Well, many
Yeah.
doctors like to ride their bikes to work.
They won't ride on that lane because they won't get to work if they if they try.
Yeah, so I mean, this is what we can do. We can include it as an option. Of course, you don't have to do exactly what we put in the report, but it's just an option. So,
Listen, for me, it's fine. You know, honestly, I haven't ridden my bike in about 20 years, so I'll trust the bike riders for the safety aspect of it. I just look at it and it just looks like there's something a location where I wouldn't want to ride my bike, but I do understand what the people are saying.
of course, yeah. And I did, when I was walking the corridor, I did see people on their bike though. So, I mean, there were some brave souls who just had to go down Prospect Avenue, so they did.
I do it fairly often. I'm not a hardcore cyclist, and I think that it's fairly safe. You can kind of get over to the side of the road, and vehicles have enough room to pass for the most part. But having a little bit of extra security would be nice. And like I said, this road along with Summit are kind of these streets that tend to attract runners, cyclists, and people walking walkers have the sidewalk, but a lot of people do like to run on the side of the road rather than the sidewalk. So I see that a lot.
Yeah.
I think if you look at it from another perspective about accessibility to healthcare, and also take into account the population that lives in town and surrounding towns, you know, their main mode of transportation is biking, and so to have that space carved out for them, because they're here whether it's safe or not, right? They're here. That's you saw it, a lot of us see it day in and day out. So they're here, and by carving out that lane, you're only helping them. They're going to engage in this behavior either way, because for some of them it's their only option. So by carving out that, I think it just does help. It's not necessarily an encouragement, right? We're not encouraging them to walk on this or ride on this road, but I think it helps.
Excellent point. And then I see a comment that asking if the crosswalk at the exit of the hospital is in addition to the one at Thompson. Yeah, so this is a separate location. I would say that it would be an ideal location for another crosswalk. When I was walking through the corridor, I saw people crossing here, just dodging between the traffic because the traffic was coming nonstop, and they were crossing there anyway. So yes, that crosswalk I think should be an addition. But if there's a light here, then there would be a crosswalk on both sides anyway. So
Yes.
Yeah.
I would prefer to have the light there. It will be safe.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Then I think a traffic study would be really helpful.
Yes.
For sure. Okay, let's move on to Atlantic Street, the next intersection. So this is the area where parking starts on Prospect Avenue. So I've put sharrows on the road instead of bike lanes at this point, but Atlantic Street might be an opportunity to provide bicyclists with a safer route rather than continuing on the sharrows if they were trying to head in that direction. Again, the road here, Atlantic Street, is extra wide. So you have an option to narrow the road a bit, extend the curbs, and shorten that crosswalk. A lot of cars were stopped in that crosswalk because the stop bar is so far back that they couldn't see the oncoming traffic. So scooting the stop bar up and straightening that curb, that intersection out a little bit could be really helpful for visibility. So, oh, Peter, you have some comments. I think you have to, there you go. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I want to just go backwards because I just checked with our project engineer for Essex Street and Prospect. So I just want to go back for a second. And I just spoke to him. I asked, do we have countdowns? Hopefully everyone understands what countdowns are, and pedestrian push audible signals there. He told me not. So probably another recommendation I would have to the county specifically is to request for those countdowns, which would give a separate phase for the pedestrians, and it gives notification of how many seconds they have crossing that intersection, as well as audible for other types of populations. So I just want to add that to the series of comments that were stated. Okay, thank you.
Oh, yes. And good point. There was a comment at the first walk audit mentioning that the traffic signals should have that auditory instruction as well. Okay, so any comments here? Oh, Atlantic Street is a very steep hill. So unless you have to go that way, you won't on a bike. Exactly, yeah. I noticed that for Beech Street too. It's pretty steep.
Plus, all the cars, all the emergency vehicles, they come from other town. Sometimes they take Railroad Avenue, or sometimes they come by State Street, and then they make a right and they go Atlantic Avenue all the way up to the emergency facilities in the hospital. I don't think it's a good idea to have bike lanes over there because the street is narrow, it's not really wide. So one ambulance leaving, another one going up, You know, they take all the space.
Also, you have the major expansion of the hospital on 2nd Street and Atlantic. There's going to be so much more increased traffic, especially with medical vehicles as well as small buses dropping patients off. They're even talking about a traffic light at that area too, 2nd Street and Atlantic. It was mentioned at a council meeting last year.
And that's going to be for the next 5 years.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
I think one thing to know is that if you have that extra space, which Lisa said that you do, and if you're going to like put in like lines there to narrow the road, which decreases the speed when she extends those curbs, it slows people down. That always increases safety. But if you've got that space, you might as well paint it and turn it into a bike lane. And I know many of you may not be cyclists, but some cyclists really love to go up hills because it gives them a wonderful workout. And that's how you get better. That's how your legs get stronger. They might even be attracted. I know you're thinking that they must be crazy, but I mean, people think that bicyclists are crazy, but.
Well, they got other streets in Hackensack. They got the hill. You got Euclid, you got Fairmont Avenue, you got the hill, and you got areas.
Central is a good hill.
They got a lot of hills. And they want to exercise, they can go by Polyfly Park, or they can make a Polyfly right by the drugstore, and they can take that hill. They can get good exercise there, and it's no danger because it's not that much traffic. But at Atlantic Street, you got some traffic. And the moment that you go up the hill, you're not going to get your bike in a straight lane. You're going to move to the right, the left, and that way you can go up. So to me, it's dangerous, but everybody, can do whatever they want. So you want to take a chance?
That's why they like the bike lane. It makes it safer.
Oh, yeah. But I had to be at least 6 feet wide, at least. And you don't have that luxury in Atlantic Street.
One thing I would add is that, as you mentioned, because of the uphill, the bikes are going slower and do need to move to the right. It's great to have that space so that cars can safely pass them, since they are going to be going much slower. And for the comment on emergency vehicles, they're emergency vehicles. They can do what they want. So if they do need to use the bike lane to drive in an emergency, they're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
It is just paint in the end.
The hill not only is steep going up, but going down, you get a lot of speed. It is kind of blind. You go pretty much level until you hit the hill, and then it suddenly dips down. So you don't really see who's on the hill or what's on the hill. And so if we're encouraging exercising bicyclists who want to just go faster, who want to exercise, this is not the street to do it, because there are ambulances coming there. There are people who are lost trying to find the parking lot, who are trying to get in there.
Yes.
It's not a very good idea. So as from a point of view of trying to get anywhere for the moment, at least, with all the construction and all that and the hills over here, this is not a street that you're going to be riding a bicycle on unless you specifically have to go on Atlantic Street. So trying to divert traffic off of Prospect onto Atlantic is not going to happen, because that it doesn't connect anywhere practical to that. Plus, it then encourages. I mean, I agree. Put bicycle lanes if you can put bicycle lanes, but I wouldn't try to encourage moving bicycles from somewhere else to Atlantic Street.
I agree.
Okay, we only have 15 minutes left, so let's move a little further north. This is the section of Prospect where things get even more narrow. So right now you have 13-foot travel lanes in either direction, which are substantial travel lanes. Then you have 7 feet of parking on either side, sidewalks, and a little bit of a buffer with those big, beautiful trees that provide shade. So in this section, you could have a little bit of a median if you wanted, with sharrows on either side. I think that there should be amenities for the bus stops, maybe a little bit better use of the buffer along the sidewalk. You can have plantings. You can include some pedestrian-oriented lighting, some wayfinding signage. Yeah, so do we have any comments on this section? Oh, Peter, did we miss your comment? Did we lose Peter?
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, from before, I do also want to tell the group we're missing out on one component here, which is micro mobility. People are riding scooters, so it's not just about bikes. There are also people riding scooters, which is the wave of the current future right now. So the hill and, does not apply. People are going to be riding electric vehicles in terms of 2 wheels. So we have to take note of that. And going back to Hackensack, there should be some sort of comprehensive plan and willingness to do this. I'm an advocate of actually of these kind of different types of transportation, but it has to be done in a thoughtful way. So not just in a piecemeal way. So that's my comment, especially someone from Manhattan such as I am. Thank you.
Great point. Excellent point. Do we have any comments on this section before we head on to Beech Street? If not, we'll just move right along. So Beech Street, again, you have some pretty wide travel lanes. Actually, the lanes aren't marked, so I just took a guesstimate as to which was the actual travel lane. So you have about 7 feet of parking, about 14.5-foot wide travel lanes, and some pretty wide sidewalks on the one side at least. So again, you have an opportunity here to reuse this space a little bit differently. It's a steep hill here too, but you have an opportunity for a bike lane, for maybe some additional trees along the route, especially down by the high school where it's mostly just cement in all directions. And then a sharrow on the one side of the road. So do we have any comments on this section of the roadway? This is right by the high school.
Trees would be nice.
The downhill sharrow seems to make sense. Uphill protected for slower speed on cyclists. So I think that makes sense to me.
The heavy use of that particular street is in the morning when they drop the kids and sometimes when they pick up the kids. That's right. The time that sometimes the parents, they park in the right-hand side, the right-hand lane, right by across the street from the high school.
Yeah, yeah.
And that increases the traffic in the morning and in the afternoon. The rest of the day, in really not too much traffic there.
Yeah, Councilman Battaglia is right. In the high school, I know they try to get them to go down Comet Way and drop off on, by the high school, by the gymnasium. But the reality is, you still have people that stop illegally on Beech Street. They do.
Right. It's pretty wide there, so it seems like there's enough space. Let's look at.
Question. There was a comment about the bike lane being downhill. I read it the exact opposite way. So which way is it? Is the protected bike lane going downhill or going uphill?
No, the protected bike lane is uphill and the sharrow is downhill.
So the parking would switch to the other side of the street then?
No, we have it marked wrong. I was actually thinking that the protected would be downhill and I accidentally marked it, but it would be the other way. It's correct. Because when you're going uphill as a bicyclist, you're moving a lot slower. So you want to have the separation.
So the bike lane that's currently on the left should be moved to the right in the picture in this picture? Okay.
Exactly. Swap it.
Okay.
Yeah. Or alternatively, if we kept it this way,
the advantage is the parking buffering the lane.
The advantage is that, but then also if we look at this next picture, if you look at Overlook Avenue, with that bicycle lane there, you have this additional visibility that you get for the people leaving that, that apartment complex right there, which I think we mentioned there was some real visibility issues with people parking too close to the exit and entrance there. And the bike lane combined with that crosswalk just creates a whole extra, like about 30 feet that you can see as a driver exiting that apartment complex. And again, for Overlook Avenue, it's just a matter of straightening out that intersection because you have the cars stopping on the crosswalk and extending the curbs so that the crosswalk is shorter. Any thoughts here? I think this is our last slide here. So if there's any thoughts on any parts of the corridor that maybe you didn't get to put in that you want to bring up now, it's a good time. If not.
And Lisa, the report itself also, it extends to the high school, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so just to remind people, a lot of the suggestions made there about the missing pedestrian counters and all that kind of stuff is in the report.
Absolutely. Anne, do you want to take over our wrap up?
Sure. So just as we did last time, in the next day or so, I'll be sending you a link with the presentation and a place to put your comments. This time it's a click and it's a little survey, so you can just fill out thoughts that you have. It's not the big form, it's just one question. So we're really interested in your comments about what you've seen today. And it'll also provide a link to the presentation, so you can flip through the slides and look at the different alternatives that Lisa provided today. A lot of great feedback and discussion today, really helpful. And I hope that you continue to do that until the 24th. Then we can wrap it up and develop the final draft of the plan, which we will share with the Hackensack Complete Streets team sometime in early to mid-September. And Lisa, I think there is one more question from Peter in the chat.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, from all the plans you showed me, I didn't see the creation of any bus bays. Do you plan to install bus bays, which I think in city elements are very critical to provide? So.
Right. So for the section further north, I guess we just drew it a little bit of a, you can see the bus stop there, but you can clear some of the parking right in front of the bus stop to clear space. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I want to say something, maybe some people can help me with all the experience that you people have. This morning, I got a meeting related to the speeding in the city of Hackensack. We got so many streets that people are flying. So, what is your opinion about a speed bump or table bumps? That table bump, they're not really that high. It's only like with the paint and the sign that maybe for the people to slow down. What is your opinion, or what other tool we can use for the people to slow down? That means 25 mile zones and the people are making 45, 50, 55.
Yeah, I think there's a variety of design options, and as crazy as it sounds, when you narrow the road, installing bike lanes, installing medians, it makes it not so easy to go so fast. When you have extra wide lanes, it feels safer to do 45 instead of 25. So that's one way. I mean, if you install speed bumps, it could get pretty loud, especially if there's truck traffic. As the trucks fall off the end of the speed bump, it's not very pleasant for those who live in the surrounding areas. But like you said, there are flatter versions, but it also creates probably a maintenance issue for snow plows. I think that some of the design elements that we've discussed today can really help with speed without some of those adverse effects.
Because I visit other towns like Elmont Park, West New York, Jersey City, And the only way to control these people is by using table bombs or something that is going to force them to reduce the speed. Ain't no reason to wait for somebody to get killed to then do something.
Yeah.
Because
I
in
want
no
to
way,
add,
the enforcement, you know, right now we're going to get police officers with radar guns to enforce. But we clock some people doing 65, 70 in Fairmont Avenue because it's a
Wow.
wider street. And now that we are making the effort to try to pay as many of the streets in Hackensack, people, they take the shortcut to go to Paramos or different towns. And they, in this particular zone, the Fairmont section, people, they are speeding terrible. And
Yeah.
now with the summer that we got, the kids not going to school, you see parents and bicycle, people walking, or the people running. And there's no reason why we have to wait for something to happen to take a drastic measures, you know, there's no reason to wait.
so what I
Thank you
wanted
for
to add is that I live in Newark, and the city of Newark does have an extensive speed bump program, and they've been fairly popular. I think the key is always when installing one is to make sure all the residents of the block are you know, on board and understand. As Lisa mentioned, some of the trade-offs can include a little bit of added noise. You know, sometimes some of those very reckless drivers will pretty much fly off them and create a bump, but they are fairly successful and popular as long as you do have the engagement with the community and they understand the trade-offs.
So Peter, in other words, like for instance, you will need the support from the community in these particular areas.
Right, the people that live right in front of it, because they're going to have the most effect.
Right.
But of course, you know, if they're seeing the people speeding every day, there's a good chance they're going to be for it.
Yeah.
And you also need to work with your public works people. You know, they might not be huge fans of at first because of the plowing issue, but it's a training thing. They can be, the plow people can be trained to know how to work with them. And once they get used to them, you know, it's just another part of the job.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the information.
Yeah, you know, Councilman, I also look at, and again, I know it's not for the part of today's discussion, but you know, since we're speaking about street safety, like by First Street under the bridge by the high school, you know, that's a very wide street. That's another area that can use a study. I do know that obviously when our kids are crossing the street in between periods, it can get a little chaotic there in the mornings. Actually, I think there was a kid hit on bike this past school year that was heading over to the middle school. So that corner by Beech Street and First Street can be a bit chaotic. And at least there, if there were speed bumps, there's no residents to contend with.
So First Street is a county road, so Peter has to help us with that. We can make a suggestion to him, and the other thing that we can do is, you got a good point, please. Tonight we got a meeting about 8 o'clock, so get in there, you know, and say something, and that can help me to try to go and try to do something about the speeding. You know,
I mean, listen, at least a study, right? I mean, I don't know what the solutions are, but at least a study, because at least in the short time that I've been in Hackensack, it's a pretty crazy, you know, it's a pretty crazy intersection in the mornings and throughout the day.
So I know perfect the situation because I've been in Hackensack for over 40 years, so I know the city pretty good, and you're 100% right. But you have to make phone calls to the city manager, and you have to go maybe getting in the Zoom tonight in the meeting and say something. You got a good point. There's no reason to wait to one of the kids to get hit by a car.
Yeah.
There was an accident about what, 2 years ago that a guy got hit by a truck right in that corner. You can see in the video how the guy fly.
It's crazy.
All right.
Yes.
Well, we're at 3 o'clock now, so I just want to thank everyone for participating.
Lisa, can I just mention one thing real fast?
Mhm.
Just for those of you council member and those of you in Hackensack, just a reminder that NJDOT has released the opportunity for the Transportation Alternatives Grant Program. Hackensack was successful with this in 2016. You guys got funding for the Main Street streetscape, but I believe you're eligible to keep applying. So please note that the due date for that is November, if you do want to apply for a grant opportunity for bicycle pedestrian projects.
Peter, what is your phone number? I call you maybe in half an hour.
That's James.
James, okay, I call James.
Yeah, you can email Ann if you want, and we can send you that information. So just to make sure
okay,
you guys don't miss out, it's only offered every 2 years.
I'm gonna get the secretary or the city manager to place an email to you to try to get all the information that we need to get all these grants to try to change our city.
Sounds great.
Excellent.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Have a great
Thank you.
day.
Thank you for all your help. Bye.
Of course.
Bye.